Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, if I was to say to you e-learning, computer-based training, or computer-assisted learning, what would you think of? Maybe you think about people in a classroom learning about computers. Perhaps you think of people in front of a computer learning using software. Or maybe it conjures up something completely different. As per Morgan Blended Learning, we see e-learning as any form of learning or instruction enhanced by technology. So yes, the examples I just mentioned are e-learning, as is something as simple as a lecture supported by a PowerPoint presentation, for instance. The basic enabler of e-learning is therefore Internet and multimedia technologies. My research has found that the e-learning industry has 5 key sectors: consulting, content, technology, services, and support. If I was to mention the 1930s to you, you'd probably think of troubled times. Does the rise of fascism come to mind? Perhaps the Great Depression? Well, despite the negative occurrences around this time, the 1930s signalled the start of the post-industrial era. It was the dawn of technological changes that would form the part of the modern learning movement, leading to the eventual realisation of the e-learning industry in the 21st century. The post-industrial era has also encompassed the birth and realisation of 3 distinct global generations. These are the baby boom generation, born between 1946 and 1964, Generation X, born between 1965 and 1976, and the Net generation, born between 1977 and 1997. These generations' existence globally could be put down to the impact of the Second World War, which began in 1939 and ended in 1945, the year previous to the one in which the first baby boomers were born. It was in 1945 that the science fiction writer Arthur C. Clarke predicted the future of satellites into space. And with the launch of Sputnik in 1957 and Telstar in 1962, the first revolution in the e-learning industry occurred. Television began to be seen as the technology that would transform learning. I remember when I was at school, taking VHSs in to watch with the other pupils, and at secondary school, watching the school's programmes on BBC Two. Some of you may have been at school when all the politicians and academics were talking about how television was going to replace teachers and how learners would be happily absorbing all manner of knowledge through a television set. While it didn't happen, this independence from authority was a key value of Generation X, which grew up with television. The television saw a surge in its usage in the United Kingdom after the creation of the Open University, which was proposed by the British Labour Party in 1963 as a University of the Year. Coupled with the view that this form of e-learning could lead to greater social justice, the Open University meant lower income groups could access higher education through television and radio, and came into being with Harold Wilson's government, establishing a committee after winning the election in 1964. This led to a manifesto commitment at the 1966 election to create it. Years later, after the 1997 general election, the new Labour government, perhaps hoping to build on the success of the Open University proposed decades earlier, commissioned a mass computer-based learning programme called UKEU, the United Kingdom's EU University. This programme used up millions of pounds of resources to produce university-level programs for which there ended up being only a handful of subscribers. This difficulty is common for e-learning system developers, where the amount of resources that can be used to produce the content of these information systems may be more than is feasible. This state-imposed learning program was conceived by the baby boom generation of politicians, who were unprepared for the market and consumer-led web-based revolution. This was not so much about the delivery of e-learning as they envisaged, but the collaborative and social aspects of the web, social aspects of learning that was advocated by Soviet educationist Lev Vygotsky in the 1930s, as it happens. The web has, however, been the key component for distributing learning materials, taking over from the CD-ROM. While the web has revolutionised the e-learning industry and the content is now delivered more online than on CD, there is further change ahead, with the drive for better provision of e-learning services. The services sector of the e-learning industry, still reliant on broadcasted teaching, is growing significantly as the demand for blended learning increases. Blended learning, as the name suggests, involves blending e-learning with traditional methods of learning and development, and it is argued that it is the most logical and natural evolution of the learning agenda. According to the International Data Corporation, the corporate training segment of the e-learning industry is estimated to have increased from about €234 million in the year 2000 to $11.4 billion in 2003. However, in the European Union, only about 20% of e-learning products are produced within the common market. Values have changed within each of the generations that have existed since the 1930s, and with them, the approaches to e-learning also has. Whether it is the technology changing people or the people changing technology, e-learning seems to be growing in effectiveness with each generation that passes. The case for e-learning as a technology that enhances learning is clear, but the shape that it will take in the future is far from certain. Will compulsory education be delivered remotely to people's homes, with the only practical sessions such as sports and lab work happening in the community? Perhaps in the future we will be able to have access to e-learning anywhere, on the bus, on the train, or on the plane. Whatever happens in the future, I'm sure e-learning will be with us, and I'm sure it will be different.